Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the god tier champions for every single role for patch 9.21. So starting things off here in the top lane didn't see too much of a change in this patch. Overall, this patch was pretty small, so most of the roles didn't see too many changes, but top lane was definitely the role that saw the least amount of changes in this patch. Garen did end up getting a nerf, but not enough to drop him out of S tier in my opinion. He's definitely not the broken Garen as he was in patch 9.20, so he's on the verge of like low S tier honorable mentions right now, but I do still think he is worth picking up. Very strong top lane pick. I would now have to say that Kayle is the standalone best top laner for patch 9.21. I was pretty surprised she did not get any nerfs in this patch, and she's been a very good pick here past couple patches, so definitely look to pick up Kayle in the top lane for your end of season climb if you are looking to get to that next rank. Not too much else to say about the top lane for this patch. We did see Maokai get some buffs in 9.21, but with the way the top lane meta is right now, I just don't think Maokai can be a very viable pick. You got Garen, Kled, Darius, Fiora all being played a lot, so he's pretty bad into those bruiser champions. I think Maokai situationally now could be a pretty decent pick in the top lane, but definitely not a blind pick top laner for this patch, so he's not making his way into the S tier or into the honorable mentions. So moving into the jungle now, a bit of a shakeup in this patch. Zac is going to be moving up into S tier in place of Mundo. Mundo's going to be dropping to the honorable mention, so I just think Zac super good pick right now. I do favor him slightly higher than Mundo at the moment. I just think his ability to gank in the early game is better than Mundo. His ability to influence the map a little bit better than him. Both junglers very good tank junglers for this patch, so if you do prefer Mundo, he's still a great pick in 9.21. Zac and Mundo are just so good into the AP junglers right now, so you got your Echo being played a lot, you got Elise, Evelynn, Nidalee. There's actually a ton of AP junglers being played in 9.21. I guess you can throw in the Karthus there as well if you want. So just their ability to itemize so well into those champions, especially if the enemy team has something like a Kayle top as well, or if they have a mage down in the bot lane too. Like, these tank junglers who can build Spirit Visage are just having a very good time in the current meta, and Zac is another jungler who's just been buffed slowly but surely over the past couple months, slowly been getting better as other junglers have been getting nerfs. So very underrated pick. Definitely recommend picking him up for 9.21. Now for the Shaco pick, he did get a bit weaker in this patch. His box duration got nerfed from 60 seconds down to 40 seconds, so this does hurt his ability to look for that level 3 cheese gank down bot lane super early on, so it makes him a bit weaker in this patch, but I still do think he is one of the strongest junglers for 9.21. And then just take note of the honorable mentions there for the jungle. Both Kayn and Warwick are going to be taking up spots, so both these junglers got buffed in this patch. Warwick got a buff to his Q and to his W, and because of those changes, you should now be maxing your Q out first and your W second. Q base damage got increased more so at the later ranks, and then W attack speed got increased at the earlier ranks, so it just makes much more sense now to max your Q out first. As for Kayn there, he got a buff to his Q in this patch, so both these junglers are really good, especially for the lower elos now. If you're looking to pick up a new jungler that you could just pick up very quickly for your end of season climb, then I would recommend either picking up one of them or even picking up both of these junglers. They're picks that are a lot more forgiving than a lot of other junglers as well. You can make mistakes on these champions in team fights, and you're not going to get punished as hard because you're going to be building pretty tanky on them. You got the damage reduction in your kit with Warwick, you got your ultimate with Kayn. If you make a mistake, you can use your ultimate to buy time for your team. You also just have a lot of sustained damage in team fights. You do have the ability to get really tanky with both these junglers and still deal a ton of damage, so really good picks for solo queue in 9.21. And then mid lane for 9.21 stays pretty stable yet again. Kayle is going to be moving up into my S tier though. Kayle in the mid lane has been performing pretty well the past few patches. She has had a pretty low pick rate, but I'm finally moving her up into S tier for this patch because she's just a great pick into a lot of the most played mid lane champions. Really good pick into the Zed, into the Fizz, does a great job at countering those champions at the level 6 there with your ultimate, and if you run the Kleptomancy into those matchups, you're going to be able to farm up a lot of gold in the early game. You're going to be able to hit your mid game spike a lot faster, so the mid lane Kayle into these melee matchups that are being played a ton, into these melee assassins, is a great pickup for 9.21. And then for the rest of the mid lane champions there, I feel like I sound like a broken record when talking about them because just nothing has changed over the past couple patches here for the mid lane. Malz and Ahri still very consistent mid picks. Fizz, Talon, Zed, great assassins. For the honorable mentions there, if you're looking to pick up a champion who can just stomp the early game, stomp the mid game, if you're looking for a pretty simple champion to pick up for the most part, then pick up Rumble for your end of season climb. Nobody's gonna know how to play against this. You're gonna be able to abuse his early game. You're gonna get a ton of early solo kills in the laning phase almost every single game, and you're gonna be able to take over games for this champion. I just don't know why he's not played more in the mid lane. Most underrated pick in the game probably overall at the moment, so definitely look to pick him up if you are looking for some quick end of season elo. Echo, Katarina, both pretty good assassin picks right now. Cassidy also very good in the right situation, can completely take over games. Orianna, pretty consistent mid pick as well, so pretty good blind pick mid lane champion. You can't really go wrong with picking up Orianna. And then making your way down into the bot lane now, first for AD carry, Kog'Maw is going to be taking up a spot in the S tier for this patch, so he got some pretty good buffs in 9.21, got some buffs to his base stats, his E and his Q also got their base damages increased. Q base damage I think went up by 10, E base damage went up by 15 at all ranks, so that's a 25 damage increase there in your full combo in the early game, which can definitely add up if you can hit those abilities. Kog'Maw's a great pick into two of the most played AD carries in this patch, being Ezreal and Kai'Sa. He can just do very well. He has a great laning phase against those two champions, scales very well into the mid to late game, can match the Kai'Sa scaling very well. So if you are looking for a new AD carry to pick up in this patch, then Kog'Maw with his buffs is definitely one that I would recommend. And then for the rest of the S tier picks there, if there's one AD carry I'd recommend picking up for this patch, it would be the Ashe pick. Ashe got some buffs a couple patches ago, has been performing extremely well ever since those buffs. Ashe is an AD carry who's got a very good early game. If you can get going in the early game with Ashe, if you can get a couple early kills, her ability to just completely take over games and end games very quickly is better than any AD carry in the game. You have your ultimate, which you can use to find picks very well in the mid game, and whenever that's off cooldown, you have the ability to look for that engage for your team. No other AD carry really has the ability to take things into their own hands and look for plays, look for engages, but you can do that with Ashe. So if you get ahead in the early game, it's just much easier to close out games as compared to playing a lot of other AD carries. A build on Ashe that's becoming more popular over the past few patches is Essence Reaver into the Runins. A lot of people before were going for the Essence Reaver into Trinity Force, but that build's kind of fallen off over the past few patches. Essence Reaver into Runins just gives you a very strong mid-game spike. Essence Reaver puts your ultimate on a super short cooldown, so you can find a lot more picks in the mid-game. By going the Runins just has super good synergy with your passive there. If the enemies are grouped up in a team fight, you're just gonna be able to get those AoE slows off. You provide your team with a lot of utility. You provide yourself with a lot of good kiting potential in team fights, so that's a great build on Ashe right now, and if you haven't been using it, then I definitely recommend trying it out. For the honorable mentions there, the Heimer and the Veigar, more so cheese bot lane picks, but can definitely be very strong if you pair them up with a strong early game support, a support who does have some good lockdown CC and who does have some good damage as well. Then you can definitely look to just destroy the laning phase, take over lane, and just end games very early on. So two picks that are more unconventional but can definitely work very well for this patch. For Misfortune, very good low elo pick right now. For the Xayah pick, pretty consistent AD pick still. She has been nerfed a little bit the past few patches, but she's still an AD carry that can do extremely well into heavy dive compositions, into a lot of the assassins that are being played right now in the mid lane. So a pick that's a pretty safe blind pick still, even though she has been nerfed in the previous patches. Alright, and then lastly, to round it all out down in the support role, we do have a couple changes here. So the Pyke is going to be dropping out of S tier. He did get hit pretty hard in this patch with the nerfs he did receive, so I would be staying away from Pyke. Now, if you do want to play a strong early game aggressive support, then pick up something like the Leona, the Blitz, or the Nautilus. They're just going to be much more effective now after those Pyke nerfs. To replace Pyke is going to be Nami. Shaco's also going to be moving up into S tier. So for the Shaco pick there, I did make a separate video on him, so if you do want to learn a little bit more about the Shaco support pick, then be sure to take a look at that video. But for Shaco support, he got buffed in last patch really well. He's just a great pick into heavy engage support, so things like the Leona, the Nautilus, the Blitzcrank, he just does extremely well into. What you want to do with your boxes in the laning phase is you always want to have a box on top of your AD carry. If you do that and you're playing up against a Leona or a Nautilus, then if they try to engage, they're just going to get immediately feared as they try to get onto your AD carry, and you're going to be able to trade back very nicely into them. Also, your E poke in the laning phase is really good now. The base damage on his E got increased. It now deals magic damage, and it just allows for you, with the Comet, with the Scorch, with the base damage being increased, it just allows for you to very easily poke out the enemy AD carry, and especially in melee matchups where you can just walk up freely, look for E poke whenever it's up on the AD carry. It just makes those lanes very good for Shaco. For the Nami pick, very good early game support, so if you do pair her up with something like the Ashe or the Caitlyn, who are very good early game AD carries right now, then you can just take over the laning phase. You can snowball extremely hard into the mid to late game, so she's a bit more difficult to play than something like a Janna, a Soraka, or a Sona, but if you can play Nami well, she is a very rewarding support to pick up. For the Blitz, the Leona, and the Nautilus, great early game aggressive supports. If you can play any of these supports well, then you can just take over games with them. For the Janna pick there, just very consistent support pick. You're not going to be able to hard carry games, I'd say, as easy as on a pick like Nautilus or on Blitzcrank, but if you can play a good Janna, if you can just always be peeling for your team, always be beside your AD carry, making sure that they stay alive in every single team fight, then you can still carry games extremely hard on the Janna pick. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. Those are the strongest champions for every single role for patch 9.21. So the meta is going to stay pretty similar as to where it was last patch. A couple champions do get stronger in this patch here, but nonetheless, hope that you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.